recipe. I am making my mango butter. It is so easy. 3 ingredients: fresh mango. I've not made it with frozen mango, so I am recommending that you find, if you can, fresh mango. If you're going to use frozen, obviously let it thaw out, but you really want a ripe mango because this is all the deliciousness that's created. I've got a cup of coconut butter. Typically, when it's solid, we refer to it as coconut butter. And when it's liquid, we call it coconut oil, or at least I do. But either way, it's coconut oil, coconut butter. I like virgin coconut oil versus some of the others you can find out there. So it's really pure. It really is delicious on the tongue. And then I've got one of my secret weapons. You know, my smoked paprika is one if you've watched any of my live streams, and my lemon pepper is another. So this maple butter is pure maple. They boil it, they cool it, and then they stir it until it's whipped. And it is magic. It's that capital C, I'm not going to say online, but it is really delicious. I don't have any affiliation with this brand, but it is the maple syrup and the maple butter that I use, and it's Shady Maple Farms. I am sure there are other brands out there, or if you'd so like to get some maple syrup, boil it, cool it, and then go to town whipping it, I'm sure you could come up with it. I haven't done that yet because this is so good. I'm like, if for some reason it was not on the shelf, I would probably try it out, but I haven't had to yet because I keep this in stock. I usually buy two at a time. I literally can take a teaspoon and dip it in here if I'm having, like, I need a sugar fix, and just enjoy it. And it's that good. It does say to refrigerate. So let it get to room temperature or take out the amount you need just for the purposes of making this mango butter. I have the mango at room temperature, so it's ripened. I don't put it in the refrigerator. And I've let the coconut oil butter sit out a little bit just so it churns a lot easier together. So the 3 ingredients: coconut butter, fresh mango, and then the maple butter. If you can't find maple butter, it's fine to use maple syrup. It's going to work. And this is a tablespoon that I'm using today with this particular recipe. This mango is ripe, but it's not really sweet. My last mango was a lot sweeter, so I pulled back a little bit on the amount of maple. So just because the recipe says a tablespoon of this, cup of this, yes, for the yield I want to get, but you've got to be mindful of how sweet is my fresh fruit that I'm using, because you can literally make a strawberry butter, you could make a blueberry butter, but this mango butter kind of hits differently. And then I'm going to use a pinch of sea salt. I'm actually using just Celtic sea salt. You could also use Himalayan pink sea salt. Those are my choices to cook with. If you've watched any of my videos, Himalayan pink salt I use as a finishing salt, like I do my virgin olive oil. If I'm cooking with olive oil, it's a pure or refined olive oil. You're spending a little bit more money on your virgin olive oil, so I choose not to use that to cook with, especially when I need to cook with higher heat temperatures. So I'm being mindful of my oils that have a higher smoke point. So yeah, everything stays intact, right? So let's get into this because you're going to be super excited to know that this is so good for the holidays. It is great on toast. You already know it is delicious on waffles. It is really good on pancakes. It's just a game changer. It really surprises people. And I didn't think about it so much, but it does. And I'm just going to get, that's 1 cup of the coconut butter. I'm gonna put that in there. And I'm just using a food processor. You could also use your blender. It just depends on how much you're gonna make, because you wanna make sure the amount you use, especially in that blender with that blade, covers it so it can oscillate and really pull the ingredients down. But with this, I'm just gonna whip it a little bit before I put the mango and the maple butter in it. Sorry for the noise. And for this amount, this size of my food processor works great. I'm not pulling out my big guns because, again, that saying, the blade needs to be able to grab it. I just want to churn it because it will just incorporate a lot easier, especially if you do have your coconut butter in the refrigerator. If that's what you do, I don't, but this makes things blend easier. I don't want any chunks in this butter. I want it smooth and creamy, and when I spread it over whatever I'm spreading it over, I don't want it to tear. Okay. So that looks about right. It looks like it's whipped cream. I took that off. I know that's going to do what it wants to do. Come on, get back on there. All right, put my blade back in. Check this. Doesn't like us to mess with it. And then I'm going to just put my mango in, and you can, I'm going to show you. I can put half of it in and then start incorporating it in and then add the other half. Yesterday I didn't do this, but I like to show you different ways to do things so you can really get it creamy and broken down. Okay. I'll go ahead and put, and you can start, I keep wanting to pull this off and show you things. You can start seeing how I'm just going to whip it until it whips totally creamy. And because of the way this works, get in there and that there. So let's finish that. And then I'm just going to incorporate my maple butter. It doesn't spill, so I love it. This is also really good on pancakes. I will mix it also in some of where the recipe calls for, maple syrup if you're using that as your sweetener. And the butter just gives it this really luxurious kind of feel, depending on what you're making. And it is the holiday season, so I'm going to be making a lot of different desserts. I'm getting calls in for people ordering desserts, which I love because no one ever asked me when I make vegan desserts, where's the protein? No one cares about that. They should be asking about how much sugar is in it. But we do our best. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to go ahead and add my pinch of salt. Remember, salt does three things. It's going to salt your food. So it's its own seasoning flavoring to add, but it also brings out flavors of other ingredients. So where my mango may not be as sweet, if I put a little bit of salt on it, or I put a little salt on a tomato or a cucumber, it's going to bring out more of the sweetness in that actual ingredient. So this is where we're using it. And we also know, depending on how you're using the salt, that it's going to cook. So it starts to sweat. We put a little bit of salt on our kale, and then we massage it, and you see all the water come up and it gets this bright green. So that right there shows you it's breaking down the cell wall, it's bringing out the moisture. If I'm sprinkling it on eggplant before I cook the eggplant, it's going to pull out and sweat it out. It's going to change that texture. So it's actually more chewy than watery because it's pulled that water out. But it's also going to help remove the bitterness that is found, or a lot of people think eggplant has in it. And I'm just going to churn this until it is creamy, but I'm not going to take you through all that noise because I like to keep it, especially at this time of year. Sometimes I have to be careful. I'll take it by a spoon. It's not like eating a spoonful of butter, right? It's the coconut oil, it's that mango, it's that maple, and coconut oil is just more palatable. I haven't had real or dairy butter in over 25 years at least, if not more. So I can't imagine taking a tablespoon of dairy butter and eating it. But this, again, a game changer. So, two ways I'll do it. I'll either take a small serving and I'll put it in these kind of containers, depending on if I'm doing catering or I'm doing, a brunch, and I'll just put the amount I want, put it on a tray, and then put it in the refrigerator so it can get solid. It's going to get solid like your regular butter would. Or I'll put it in something like this, which is just about a 4 ounce, half a cup container, and I'll put my butter in that. And so it's going to be hard. Probably could use it as a skin product also. Um, I get back in my hat of cooking. And then I've poured it after I've made it smooth. So I don't have to heat it. With butter, when you're making butter, you're going to have heated it and then you're going to pour it in. Once I get this creamy enough and I let it churn long enough, I was able to pour it into my mold. This is just a silicone mold. So once it sets and it comes with a top, so I just cover it and put it in the refrigerator. And usually I'm making this like at this time. So I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and let it set overnight. So then I can just push it out. But I'm going to leave this in here and I can put it on my butter tray. These lights are right. And I just put my petals because I love edible flowers. So if I'm doing a brunch and I've made, say, banana bread or zucchini bread or pumpkin bread or cranberry bread for the holidays, I can actually, because this has the cuts in it, I can already cut it and I can lay it out like you would any other butter. So your guests can, take it and spread it, especially if it's hot. And if the bread isn't hot, I'm going to take this out and let it get a little soft, but you don't want it to be so warm wherever you're at that it really starts melting down. But I haven't had that problem when I've done brunch, and people really love it. Because of the mango, it just really gets quite yellow. When I've made just butter with coconut oil or butter, right? I've put a little bit of turmeric in it, pinch of salt, blend that up, and then that gets yellow also. And people are always blown away. Mango butter or coconut butter. Once you put that color in, psychologically, people will start eating it and not think twice, except they know I'm a plant-based vegan chef. So they'll come back and ask me, aren't you? I didn't think you cooked with. And when I clarify it, they're like, oh, that's wild. We really love that. So in that instance, you have your stick butter, you have your mold. So I can store it in this. So I got this on Amazon. You can find it in Sur La Table or any, culinary cooking supply store. And I'm going to finish this. I just don't want you to listen to all that. You saw what I did. I got it churned. I then just put it in each one. And then I just drop it like this to flatten it out and to even it. And I can see that my butters are all the same size. I kind of eyeball things because I know how many swipes to make after you've done it so many times. And that is the mango butter. So I've had this crumble like cinnamon toast muffin. It is vegan. I didn't make it. I didn't. I went to Sprouts and got it because I was really busy today. And I just wanted to, although I warmed it, and I can just cut it. And now it's nice and warm inside. And I don't want to mess that up. I'm just going to scrape it. And when I have it like this, it's really easy for me to get it quite thin so that when I then go to spread it, it spreads really easily, really easy on my muffin. So you can see it's already melting. But I'm going to just fold it up like that because I'm not going to eat this yet. That's my dessert. What time is it? Oh, yeah, I still have time to eat. Okay, So I've just thrown muffin all over the place, but nobody's going to say anything about it. That's our mango butter. You can please drop comments and let me know. I'm going to actually write the recipe. It's so easy, but I'm still going to write it up and attach it, especially if you're watching the replay. I'll have it below for you, but I like to walk you through a recipe and give you the side notes or the cliff notes while you're watching the video because it seems to stick a little more, or at least have you have the audio part of it, and then when you look at the recipe you know what to do. So mango, you've got to decide how sweet that mango already is to decide how much of your sweetener. You could use agave. I That's not my choice of sweetener most often unless someone that I'm cooking for requests it. But you want to be able to adjust your things when you look at recipes based on the raw ingredients that you're using. So when you're cooking or making things from scratch and you're using a lot of fresh ingredients, you need to taste them. Whether it's zucchini, whether it's broccoli, whether it's kale. Sometimes kale comes in really sweet, sometimes comes in really bitter, and I've got to be able to adjust that for the taste, the finished product that I'm trying to create and deliver to you. Especially, this is something we have to do in restaurants because if you like a certain dish and you come in and we're a scratch kitchen, we're back there constantly tasting what our produce is like because it changes seasonally. Things are going to be a lot more full of flavor in the season that we should eat them in than a tomato in winter, right? So, because of the way we do things, we in the kitchen or culinarians are really trained to figure that out to keep it stable and keep it as consistent as we can without adding preservatives and all the other things that they must do when we go in the store and something sitting on the shelf and it's got to have shelf life. But in the restaurant or in the cafe, in my case, I'm still needing to adjust it so when you come in weekly and you taste this butter, it is consistent. Sometimes there's going to be a slight change because that's just it's natural and there are no preservatives in this. Although coconut oil, butter in itself is a preservative. It's antibacterial, it's antifungal. So I won't go down that road right now. I hope you enjoy this mango butter. Please leave comments for me. Let me know if you tried it. If you have any questions, I answer all the questions you drop in the comments. And next time, come and join me at my table and talk live with me. All right, that's what I have for you. And I'm going to eat my muffin and have a little bit of tea. Okay, see you soon. I'll see you next week.